You're listening to the Business Wealth Impact Podcast, your source for empowering information and cutting-edge ideas from the world's top minds. I'm your host, Jeanne Amlour, founder of seven-figure coaching company, Jeanne Amlour International. Join me on a journey to unleash your potential and create your highest success. Welcome to Business Wealth Impact. Hello, and welcome to another what's going to be fascinating adventure with Steve Brown today, who's our guest. Steve is a tech entrepreneur and AI innovator whose cancer diagnosis inspired the creation of the patient platform called CureWise. Thanks so much for turning up today, Steve.
Oh, it's great to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I want to hear about how AI actually saved your life. How did that happen?
Well, I was misdiagnosed with cancer for about a year, which I've learned from pretty much everybody I've met with cancer that sort of seems to be par for the course, that it's you don't know you have it until it's like too far along. I actually got really lucky that I caught it relatively early because of another unfortunate circumstance. My house burned down in the Los Angeles fires, which displaced me to new doctors and a new health system and a fresh set of eyes. But they figured out that I had this rare version of multiple myeloma. Well, that got me thinking, like, well, why didn't my doctors catch this earlier? And I was already working on AI for a lot of things. Where the conference that we met at, Abundance 360, I had spoken there the prior year about using AI in education and using AI for lots of things. And when I was in the hospital, I said, well, let me use AI to try to figure out why they didn't catch my cancer earlier. And AI caught it, like it looked at my old data and immediately said what it thought I had. So that's where I realized that this is going to have just a transformative power in medicine. It's going to completely change medicine. And that's how I got started.
Okay, so we'll circle back to the story later. But first of all, what I want to know is, what did you do when you found out that you had cancer and you didn't know it, and then you started thinking about AI? What did you create from that, and how does this work?
So everybody, I assume, in your audience has dabbled in AI or used AI and used AI for something and realized, wow, there's something really interesting here. This can really help me. The first thing I was doing is saying, well, what happens if AI looks at all of my medical records? And I can talk to it about my medical records and ask about what's going on. What do you think? What should I talk to my doctor about? So that was sort of the first thing, is educating me, helping me become more of an expert in what's going on so I can have a more productive conversation with my doctor. The fact is, if you go in and you don't advocate for something specific, you're going to get the standard of care. And the standard of care is kind of like the average thing that worked for everyone. But the reality with cancer is everybody's cancer is unique. It's your genes are unique. And now your genes have mutated to create a totally unique cancer. So 1 million people have cancer. It's actually 1 million different unique diseases. But the first thing you get is something that's probably fairly generic and fairly general. And the drug that I was first put on, it's a drug that's used for like 1/3 of all cancers. Hey, take this drug. It's kind of the carpet bombing approach. And the answer to cancer is not carpet bombing. Carpet bombing is the old school treatment for cancer. It's like, let's hope we kill more of the bad guys than the good guys, and let's take this poison. But the future of cancer is recognizing that, hey, what you have is unique. You're unique. Maybe there's something that's precisely good for you that targets the weaknesses in your unique cancer and doesn't do all this collateral damage. Now I'm on precision medicine and it's been extraordinarily effective. But when I first started out, I'm on standard of care, which is a little more of a blunt instrument. And this is what happens to everyone. You start off with standard of care, and then, generally it's like, well, let's try that. If that doesn't work, then maybe you'll get the good stuff later. But what is the good stuff? What is the future of medicine? What is the future of cancer therapy? And how are we going to eventually create cures for cancer? It is in this category called precision medicine, which means giving you the right cocktail that matters for you, for your unique situation, rather than some generic one-size-fits-all approach. But the fact is, if you go in and you don't know what to advocate for, you're kind of going to get standard of care checkbox, and just do this because this is what we do. If you know what to ask for, and if you become an expert in your disease and you ask the right questions, you get a different, you end up in a different place. And that's exactly what happened to me.
Okay. So when you said something that resonated with me was 1 million people have cancer, it's 1 million different cancers. Now that's mind blowing. It's not everybody. And you're correct. It's just because that's all they know. So what did you figure out, and how did you figure it out? How does it do it that they figure out what kind of unique cancer you have and what to treat that with? What are you feeding into the algorithm to get that data?
So more and more, what's happening in cancer, and you might even not know, your doctor might not even tell you this is what's going on, but they're doing the genotyping of the cancer cell. So, in the past, it was like cost $60,000 to, do a genotyping. So they weren't doing this stuff. But now it's like, very low cost to do the genotyping and kind of molecular profiling of your cancer. So what they're doing is they're saying, well, you've got a cancer cell, which is a mutated version of one of your own cells. So it's completely unique. The world's never seen it before, and the world's never going to see that unique pathogen, that unique malignancy again. But let's find out what is going on with that cancer cell. So in my particular case, this was buried into the attachments on my chart. It's not something that the doctor even talked about. It was like, I'm digging into my medical record on my chart. Everyone has my chart. You go in and you communicate with your doctor that way. But in the attachments, there's they sent off the biopsy to the Mayo Clinic, and it came back with 15 pages of really complex genomic molecular stuff that who in the world, I know, let's you're a molecular biologist, you're not going to know what that even means. But that ends up being the input to the AI. And I'm like, the first question is, well, what the heck does this mean?
Yes.
It looks like Greek, and there's a lot of Greek letters in there. What it meant is, well, you actually have you have these specific mutations that we found in your cancer. And it turns out that, some of those mutations are bad news, and some of them used to be bad news. I have a mutation that used to be bad news, but then some doctors started finding that for this specific mutation of your cancer cell, it makes the cancer uniquely vulnerable to this particular drug. Now, that drug is not even approved for my disease. It's off label, but it's it was approved for something else. It was approved for a form of leukemia. But, there's a mechanism of action that people figured out is if you have this specific mutation, it probably doesn't matter where this mutation is. If you have this specific mutation, it makes it vulnerable to this specific mechanism in this specific drug. So I realized that, I need to get on that drug. Yeah. And, the first response is, well, that's not approved. What I have is too rare. So there was never a clinical trial. There's never a full, I'm on something that there was a phase 2 trial on the cocktail that I'm now on that they were recruiting for, and then they canceled the trial. So I was like, well, what's going on? It was a phase 2 trial. So I talked to the doctor who was running the trial and said, well, why did you cancel the trial? Did you find something bad? And I was like, well, no, we couldn't get enough patients to do the trial. So this is the general problem with the new paradigm of medicine. As you get to more specific targeted things, that something that just works on you or just works on a kind of a rare condition, that everybody has a rare disease because everybody's an N of 1. How do you do a randomized controlled trial on that? I mean, the randomized controlled trial paradigm is one where it's let's find lots and lots of people with exactly the same thing. Let's vary one variable at a time and see whether it might not have made a difference. If you're down to N of 1 personalized medicine, the whole paradigm of how we build medical knowledge changes. So AI it's enabling a new scientific method because AI can look at all of these case studies that look like anecdotes in the old world, but AI can actually synthesize and learn and be trained on all of these things and infer from that and learn from that. And so there's enough case studies, no clinical trial on my particular cocktail, but there's enough case studies of people trying it and writing, kind of case studies. There's enough that within the foundation models, there's knowledge in there about, hey, for your unique situation, here's some things that you should investigate. So I did that.
So did you get the drug in the end?
I ended up getting the drug in the end. So the first 2 months I was on standard of care, and I knew from analyzing the cytogenetics, the genetics of my cancer, I knew that the standard of care probably wasn't going to be as effective on me. But the normal thing is, well, let's try it for 6 months and let's see what happens. But the fact is, I have this rare variant of multiple myeloma where it causes damage to your organs if you don't stamp it out fast. So I was like, I don't have 6 months to experiment to see if, they're like, this is the standard of care. This is what we know. I'm looking at standard of care on me as an experiment. I don't want that. I want something that's more targeted.
Be dead. In some cases, you could already be dead. So there seems to me like there's also a little bit of lobbying at the end of it. If you have to lobby to get if you find out like somebody else has another thing and it's a different drug, then that person also has to lobby to get that drug into their body because it might be the same case like you, but a different drug. So
it's called advocating. Yeah, it's called. Yes. You need to advocate. It is lobbying. Yes, but
it's lobbying. Yeah.
you don't. You either get the standard of care, which is the one size fits all. And standard of care might be the perfect thing for you because you might have exactly kind of the average thing that standard of care was built for. It's like probably, most of the time it's totally the right thing to do. I'm not saying don't do standard of care. But for, the other half of the people, it might not be the right thing, but you either get the standard of care or you get what you advocate for. If you don't ask any questions, you're going to get the standard of care. If you say, hey, what about this? What about that? Why can't we do this? I think I need this. You tell me. You prove me wrong. You tell me. So I everything I'm on was prescribed by doctors. This is about collaborating with your doctor, but what you get from your doctor actually can change significantly depending on what you talk to your doctor about and what you ask for.
For sure. Absolutely. Okay. So people can feed their information into the AI with your company, and that will be properly translated, let's just say, because we don't know what it's gobbledygook, right? Translated, and it will then be able to come up with a tailor-made treatment. Is that correct?
Well, it's more, I frame it a little differently. What it's doing is it's helping educate you in what's going on with your disease and helping you. The ultimate output is go talk to your doctor about this. Here are some things that you should know about and that you should ask about. The first thing is, what are the genetic profile of your cancer and the molecular profile of your cancer? There's information in there that might be clues to different treatment pathways that might be beyond the standard of care. Now, a lot of people with cancer, mutates and comes back, so it's not always hey, we did this one thing and then we're done. We did this one thing, it worked for a while, but now we need to find something else. So people often start with the standard of care, but after a couple rounds of things, everybody's kind of in a unique case.
Yes.
And a lot of the frontier things, they're in clinical trials. And so part of the path is is there something that you should be talking, are there other options that you should be talking to your doctor about, to the point of is there a clinical trial on one of these frontier precision medicines that you should talk to your doctor about trying to get into? And so that's kind of the pathway. But I had something where it's very important that I get the precision medicine first and not wait for a bunch of damage. So, I had a sense of urgency to do the best thing first. I went to different doctors. I ended up going to the Mayo Clinic and flying out there and meeting with one of the top people in the world for my diseases. My disease is rare enough that there are very, very few people. There's almost no one where I am now, and there's a handful at UCSF and a handful at UCSD, but Mayo Clinic sees 100 of them. So, and my AI has only seen me. So, I went to the Mayo Clinic. It's I need a second opinion, not to my doctors, but to my AI.
Yeah.
But what AI is doing is it's educating me. It's helping me become, there's all this talk about collaborative care and shared decision making. Well, you need a counterparty to that who's actually to have a useful conversation. So I was becoming more informed, which allowed me to know how to have a better conversation, which led to me getting prescribed different drugs, which happened to be exactly the right drug for me, and it's responded really well.
Great. Let's talk about that. How is it going?
So I have had a complete response now. I have this graph where it's like going down, but then flattening out. And then I get on the new drug and it goes all the way down to normal level. So,
oh, wow. Okay.
And this has been over a 7-month period, but I'm in the group where it's, the response is exceptional. I'm very happy with where I am, so much so that I've taken what I've done and I've actually started a company because I started building this just for me.
Right.
I need to solve my own. I've been in the medical field. I've developed a lot of kind of pioneering medical information technology related to chronic care. But, now I need to do this. This is personal now. I'm developing something not for somebody else's problem, but for my own problem. But as it started working and as I started getting better, more and more people started coming to me saying, Steve, how can we help you bring this to the world? Are you going to start a company? We want to invest in that company. So now I'm to the point where since I got to I said, well, when my numbers get back to normal, when it looks like I have the kind of enduring response where I'm going to be healthy enough to start a company, this wasn't the mission I chose. This was the mission that chose me, but it's a pretty strong signal that this is what I need to be doing. So I've done that now. I've started the company. I've been building a team of just amazing people who are very motivated by this mission of like AI-powered precision medicine, which is the pathway to curing cancer, to cures for cancer, because there's not one cure for cancer. There's a million cures for cancer. There's many cures as there will be in the future, as many cures as there are variations of people with unique cancers. But the only way to get there is with AI.
Okay. Well, I think I shared with you before, and I'm going to stop myself from tearing up. One of my sisters died of multiple myeloma. And as you're talking, we were chatting. It was busy when I mentioned it. So, I'm here thinking, wow, I wish that this had been around, a few years ago, because it's some regret because, multiple myeloma is pretty rare anyway, isn't it? Just.
It's common enough, but it's relative. It's relatively rare, and I have a version of it that's five people in a million get it, so it's very rare.
And even you're being cured. So I can't help but just sit here and think, oh my goodness, I wish that we had known about this years ago. But we are where we are, and they say that if you just live a bit longer, we're going to be able to cure a lot of diseases. It's just a time, right? Just sitting around. Okay, so how far are you away from having this accessible to everybody?
We're aiming to launch it by the end of the year. I have a pretty robust product right now, and it's one that I developed initially for myself, and now I've brought in other engineers because I was doing the engineer. I was doing the whole thing myself, but now we're building a team, and we're making it more accessible, not just to somebody who's a technologist, but I'd say that what's in there is very much related to my own experience of realizing there's all these different dimensions of it. And let me talk about multiple myeloma for a second, because one of the things that affected my treatment radically, and even how we're structuring the application, because it's not just hey, put some stuff in and get an answer. That's not the way this works. There are many dimensions to what you need to deal with when cancer is very complex, and there are many parts of it. So, one is what drugs are, what's the right cocktail for me what are the things I should talk to my doctor about? Is there something more precise for me? Think of that as offense. How do you go kill the cancer? But everything that kills cancer also is immune compromising potentially, or does other damage. So with multiple myeloma, the side effect of the treatment is from the disease itself, because it's in your bone marrow, and of the treatment itself, it's immune compromising.
Yes.
So I was talking, I was kind of getting more confident as I saw things working, and I'm out there, I'm speaking at conferences, and then a friend of mine told me, it's like, oh, multiple myeloma. My brother died of multiple myeloma. And then he said, well, he didn't actually die of multiple myeloma. He died of an infection. And so I'm like,
well, my sister died of a complication because of multiple myeloma, because it causes so many other problems.
Yeah. So then I'm like, well, gosh, I can get this great precision medicine that's that's doing a good job killing the cancer, but it's also compromising my immune system. I could die of something else. So then, which led to kind of the next part of the AI is, okay, well, what do I do about that? How do I, what's my defense strategy? So I'm on defensive, I'm taking, antibiotics and antivirals, and I'm taking IV immunoglobulins. My body's not making antibodies as long as I'm on this drug. But I can get infusions of other people's antibodies, kind of like getting a blood transfusion. So I'm getting all of these things that's on the defense side that helps protect my from getting an infection. So that's another dimension. There's offense, there's defense. Another dimension is lifestyle. So all of these lifestyle factors, prevention and lifestyle and eat healthy and do all these things. Well, if you're in treatment, those lifestyle factors are even more important.
Yes.
And specifically, I'm on this miracle drug that I figured out from AI, and then found doctors who said, yeah, this is right. We'll prescribe it. And, did the appeal to the insurance company and got it paid for.
Wow.
And it's been extremely effective. But then, on the label, the pharmacist says, take this with food. And, I start taking it in the afternoon with a low fat Larabar, and then I see the response. Was getting measured every week. They usually don't measure you until once a month. But I said, no, I want the data. I need blood tests every week. So I see that it starts to, I see the response is a little slower. So I'm going to the AI saying, well, what's going on? What else? What other factors are there? And it's like, should I take it in the morning? Should I take it at night? And the AI is like, doesn't matter when you take it. Just make sure you take that dose with 40 grams of fat.
Oh.
Well, it's like, well, no one ever told me that. I thought low fat was good. It's like, no, you need high fat with this.
Wow.
So that's an example of, other things that I'm doing in my life, my diet, the other factors are like exercise and stress and sleep, all the lifestyle factors actually have a really material impact on your treatment. So you need to manage that. So there are all these different aspects. So what CureWise is there's an aspect of it, which is kind of, chat on steroids with your medical record, with a lot of different kind of medical wrapper around it to look at different points of view and kind of sort that out for you. But the other part of it is like manage all of these other things you need to manage, from lifestyle and monitoring to clinical trials, to things that what happens if this thing stops working, or like what order should I, how can I become an expert in my disease so that I can make sure that I'm advocating for the best that's available.
Fantastic. So this is for all diseases. This is not just for cancer.
The AI will impact all diseases. This idea of AI-powered precision medicine is particularly relevant for cancer because you have your unique genes, plus you have the unique genetic mutations of your cancer cell. So that's the frontier, and that's what we're focused on. Sam Altman, in one of his recent blog posts, he referred to like AI. We need this 10 gigawatt compute center because maybe AI is going to cure cancer. And the fact is, it's like AI is actually going to make a massive impact on cancer. But that's not going to happen by itself.
No.
How is that going to happen? It's going to happen because people like us are actually applying it to this complex problem.
Yes.
Called precision medicine and personalized medicine, and getting you the trying to figure out what is the exact right, best combination of things for you, and integrating that with the field of medicine, so that more and more people have access to precision medicine, and then collecting more and more and more of those case studies, and then training and fine tuning another layer of AI to learn from all of that. Like if you have hundreds of thousands of people where you have all the genomics and all the molecular profiling, and what they did, and what the outcomes are, that's like a whole new input for training a next generation of AI. So our mission is to be we agree with that is a possibility. Everyone knows why, everyone knows, like what needs to be done. But the question is how, and we're working on the how. Like, how do you get there? And it starts with like figuring out the best that's possible today and helping you learn how to advocate for that. And then over time, that gets more and more precise. And it gets more and more advanced as the AI gets advanced. And we're getting more advanced in training the AI.
Right. Okay. So no, again, I agree. People just think they're going to, throw something in ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is going to say, what's the best way to handle my multiple myeloma? Well, no, we have to have people like you that know what to feed in and how to analyze and layers and all that you're talking about. I think there's this idea that just AI just knows everything. No, AI needs how to be properly programmed and prompted with systems, which is what you're doing, because it would never figure this out by itself. Correct?
Well, the challenge with, I think it's go to ChatGPT, use it for everything, and go to Claude, and use it. It's this extraordinarily powerful educational tool to learn about pretty much anything. The challenge with it in medicine, there are a couple of challenges. One is that depending on how you ask the question, you might get a totally different answer. Yes. And that's not particularly comforting in medicine. You kind of want a little more deterministic response.
Yes.
So what we've been doing is recognizing that when you change the point of view, and when you change the context, and we change the inputs, you get potentially very different answers. So, theoretically it's a deterministic system, but in reality it's unpredictable. You get an unpredictable response. So how do we know that we're getting better knowledge out of it? It's kind of like all the Library of Congress is in there, but which row of books you go down and which volume you pull out, which page you go to, has a pretty big impact on what you learn. And the same is true. Like all the knowledge of the world is compressed into these foundational models at some point, but there are many, many different pathways through that knowledge. Right. So we kind of tried to flip the script on that and say, you get a different answer if you change the point of view. Right. Well, let's create many different points of view. Let's create many different agents, an ensemble of agents, and have them all look at your case from different points of view, which is different pathways through that, and have them kind of synthesize and talk to each other. And what we want to do is we want to leave no stone unturned. We want to figure out all the different pathways, and we want to figure out what's kind of the synthesis of all of that. There is this concept in AI called a mixture of experts, and this is happening kind of behind the scenes with the more advanced models. We're doing another layer on top of that that's more transparent, kind of a mixture of agents and models, using all the foundation models and using many different points of view, and have them all kind of analyze your case, talk to each other about it, and kind of figure out where they agree, where they disagree, where they converge on things, and where there's a new idea that one of them might have missed. And that's a very powerful way of thinking of it, as mining the knowledge that's in there and applying it to your medical record and your unique situation. Right.
So what we've got a health committee. The health committee is all chatting because, it's true that ChatGPT, they all make mistakes about health. I plug stuff in. And it's like, that was so wrong about nutrition or health. Then you go and you do some research. So they do make mistakes, and you don't want to rely on one. You want to have a health committee that's discussing and saying, wait a minute, that's not true. Or maybe even arguing with each other to come up. So I think that's so intelligent, because then you're not just depending on one idea. So very complex what you're doing. Okay. So And I'm glad that you built this. I mean, and I'm very happy that you're, getting a cure. That's incredible. Personally, I'm happy. Um, so, so tell us a little bit about, because, cancer is complex, but we talked about, the doctors and the cures and the medicine, but let's just touch on something that you mentioned at one point. Getting cancer changes everything socially, right? So tell us a little bit about the personal now, because you sort of went from that. So what happened to you? First of all, you lost your home, and I think that was the second home you lost in a fire. Is that correct?
Well, I mean, we lived in Malibu, and Malibu is like every few years there's a massive fire that comes through. When we first moved to Malibu, we didn't even have a home yet. We were renting a place, looking for a home, and that place that we rented was caught in the middle of a big fire. And then we bought a home, and it was a wonderful, beautiful place that we really liked. But then this last fire came through, and in the middle of 2 a.m. we evacuated with our 170-pound Great Dane, and that was about it. We ended up near Palm Springs, where there's nothing left to burn here. We're in the desert, and we were staying with friends, and cancer is something where it might be growing exponentially in you for a long time, but exponential kind of looks flat until it looks like this. And, I was probably right at the point where we're starting to kind of emerge and spike. So I ended up in the hospital because they went to a dinner and had a steak dinner, and I the whole weekend I'm just in pain and can't get anything through and can't keep anything down. So Monday morning I go to the emergency room, and I've been around healthcare enough to I know what to ask for. I go into the emergency room and say, I need a CT scan to rule out obstruction. I thought I had a piece of steak stuck somewhere.
Oh, wow.
And they did a CT scan, and I just had a CT scan, and every test in the world, just because at the Abundance 360, Peter Diamandis always talks about these, getting your full body scan and getting everything tested. I just had all that done. And, the answer was...
You had a full MRI, heart scan, DEXA, all of that.
I didn't have all of those. I had a full CT scan, colonoscopy, endoscopy, and 100 different tests, including all these things that were supposedly for cancer.
Wow.
But I just had all the stuff. And, the answer was from the doctors at the time is, this is a fishing expedition. We can't, we think it's just stress, or, maybe it's gas.
Because you lost your home. Yeah.
Well, no, this is even before the fire. It was I'm an entrepreneur. I'm always diving into the frontier. It's always,
stressful.
You're always kind of on it always looks like stress, but like every entrepreneur, it's I thrive on stress. But the fact is, I was in a pretty stressful situation. So of course, the doctors ask, okay, that's probably what it is. Probably just stress.
Right.
And then, the gastroenterologist says, well, I think it's just gas. Take Gas X. The big thing was, it's a fishing expedition. Well, it's always a fishing expedition. We were just fishing in the wrong pond.
Right.
When I kind of had a bunch of stuff retested, and, they looked at the CT scan, and they just saw a couple things on there that might have been dismissed when I had the same CT scan done a couple of weeks before. They went a little deeper, and they said, well, we're going to admit you to the hospital because we're going to do a lymph node biopsy. And then they did the lymph node biopsy, and it's there's no cancer in the lymph node, but we found some other stuff. So now we're going to do a bone marrow biopsy. Now, I'm in the hospital for 9 days getting these biopsies, and, and I'm still in a lot of pain and feeling horrible. And they're getting all the drugs for the pain and everything, but I'm also have my computer, and I'm like, why the heck didn't we find this 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago? So I'm starting to write code and starting to work on
CureWise before we didn't exist it. Yes.
And the first thing that comes out when I do this sort of mixture of agents. I had I kind of modeled agents and all the doctors I had, and I had them all look at my case and then kind of argue about it. And they didn't agree, different opinions, different agents had different opinions. But one thing they all agreed on was, you need to get this test. And it was the one test I didn't get. It's you need to get that test. And that test was one of the first things I got after the biopsy. Yeah, let's get this test. And it's a very clean, definitive answer.
Mm-hmm.
It's the free light chains test. It's a simple blood test, and it's pretty definitive on, it's like you've got something in the, going on with your bone marrow.
Okay. So that's when it happened. Then personally, then what happened in your life? Was that like, you said something like, you know who your friends are when your house burns down and you get cancer. And I thought, what? So did you sort of find that people didn't want to know you after that, or they weren't around, or they abandoned you because it was too much to deal with?
Well, I mean, I'd say that a lot of people don't know how to react or deal with anybody going through anything that sort of is, a tragic kind of thing, and cancer, and a lot of people don't know what to do. They don't know what to do. And there's a lot of avoidance. Mm-hmm. But, I'm also been sort of in this sort of, longevity world, like I wrote this blog post about it, the inconvenient truth of the longevity world. Nobody talks about cancer. They talk about, early detection and prevention, mm-hmm. and reversing stuff and, mm-hmm. all this kind of stuff, but nobody talks about cancer. And the reality, because it's kind of like you get cancer, well, you're kind of not in the longevity club anymore. It's sort of
you're kicked out. You're just
you're kicked out. But the reality is, cancer is the frontier of precision medicine in the future, and there are more and more people every day that are being cured of cancer. So don't write off people from cancer with cancer longevity world. But the reality is, if you live long enough, you're going to get cancer. I mean, cancer is like, it's like statistically, it's like inevitable you're going to get it if you live long enough.
No, I agree.
And the reality is, a lot of the things that in the longevity world, the side effect is, these can cause cancer, because cancer is like cancer is like this immortal cell. Right. Cancer is figured out longevity. Cancer will live, it could live forever. It doesn't kill you first. So, I did find that, there were some people that, like, I had no idea, came up to me and said, like, I have cancer too. Like, I just never told anyone, because I was, like, there's a lot of kind of, like, I don't, especially if you don't work. There's a lot of people, closet cancer, because, mm-hmm. like people kind of write you off, it's like, oh, well,
that's no fun.
People don't want to deal with it. And so there are people that, sort of didn't hear from again. And there are other people where it's like, they really leaned in and how can I help you? Like, I have connections, and, mm-hmm. Like, I had a lot of that. And I had a lot of people where, like, I had this too, or, my friend had this, or my sister had this, or my brother had this. And, a completely different kind of, like, empathetic, response. And I realized, myself, I mean, I probably was in that group that didn't know how to deal with it before. And I was like, kind of like, not sure, well, should I even tell anyone? Like, what do I do? Yeah. And I ended up, like, screw it. I'm just going to go on stage. I went on stage at the conference where we met, and I just put it out there. And it's like, okay, cat's out of the bag. Mm-hmm. But, when you have a career and you're working on all this stuff, it's like, like in the AI world, especially, I mean, like, everybody wants to invest in, some 25-year-olds in San Francisco.
Yes.
The reality is, AI is this superpower, super empowerment that is this massive leverage on wisdom and experience. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people that are, 22 years have, the kind of, technical chops to go do the stuff, but they actually don't know what to do with it.
Right.
And, the reality is, if you have, like, experience and you know what to do and you know what to apply it to, you don't actually have to have the same level of kind of, technical chops, because AI really helps with that.
Right.
But
right.
I actually had both, because I came out of, I was at Stanford computer science and physics, and I've been in technology my whole career. And the minute I get my hands on this, it's like, oh, wow, this is amazing. Yeah, I can do what I used to need, like $10 million, 10 engineers in 2 years to do.
Yes.
I can do this in a weekend now.
On your own. So
I can do it on my own. I can do it in a weekend. I can do it without that money. So what that allows you to do is this massive leverage. You take on bigger problems.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about, how did you get to this? You were at Stanford University teaching there, or
No, I was a student there in computer science and physics. And I went into
funny. Did you know
Silicon Valley startups? Wow. I've been a startup guy my whole career.
Oh, wow. Actually, my dad worked for Stanford Research Institute starting in the 50s, all through the 60s till 1971. He was like one of the fathers of all this, when they had the mainframes. So, yeah. So interesting. We lived in Silicon Valley before it was Silicon Valley, and then we left before it became something, moved to Australia. Okay. So, and then you said you were into film. Were you a filmmaker as well? It seems like you've done a lot of things.
Well, so I did a number of startups in Silicon Valley, and including in medical field. And I actually did a startup that was the pioneer in remote patient monitoring and chronic care. Now it's that's almost like standard. So we do everything remote. Everybody goes to telehealth visits with their doctor. But 20 years ago, this was not standard. It wasn't paid for. It was kind of ahead of its time. Before COVID and all of that accelerated the whole field. But we did the original. We had the national contract with the VA. We got the first contracts with Medicare. We were the case study that got this whole thing into an act of Congress that started to pay for this whole field. So, and that's a long, tough path. We sold the company in 2007. My response was, that was great, but life's too short to do another healthcare deal. I don't want to do something that needs another act of Congress. So I did other tech startups after that. And, after we sold one to Apple in 2013, I'm kind of tired of just the solution to every problem is make a better, faster, cheaper widget. I want to do something else. And it's like, well, what do I really want to do? I wanted to make movies. And so I ended up making a film. Of course, everyone thinks, oh, this is Steve's midlife crisis. He thinks he's going to go be a filmmaker. So I was like, I'll show them. So I made a feature film, premiered at South by Southwest, was acquired by both Netflix and Showtime, and went to theaters in 60 cities.
Oh, wow. And what was it?
And it was called Spark, and it was about the founder of Burning Man. And it was a really wonderful film. And you even had original score, and we had original music, and we qualified for the Oscars. We didn't get to the nomination, but we kind of were in that whole process. And it was just so much fun. It's like, I got to do more of these. And so I ended up producing a number of films and directing a couple more feature films. And it was just extraordinarily interesting and fun. Not a great business. It's more like the arts.
It's not a lot of money making at that level.
No, you don't make movies to make money. You make money so you can go make movies. But that's sort of. But then COVID shut down all of that. I was doing everything for theatrical release. Everything. I want to do films that go to theaters.
Yes.
And I was figuring out how to make that happen. And I was doing that successfully, getting my films out in theaters. Of course, COVID shut all that down, shut down all the festivals, shut down all the theaters. And, the whole industry was just kind of on hold. And then AI came out. And so I'm looking at, first I'm doing things related to education and entertainment, creating these characters and bringing them to life and doing all the stuff with AI. And it's like, oh, this is taking my tech world and the film world, and I found this intersection of these worlds, and I was doing a lot of really interesting, fun things in AI, more in education and entertainment, and then when I got dragged back into the medical field, I realized, oh, this time around it's different, and I'm super interested in all the stuff I learned from filmmaking. I will always be involved in films. I'm a consulting, story consultant on another film now. I'm involved in films, but that's the hobby right now. What we're doing in medicine, like this is the moonshot business plan.
This is it. This is it. It's like this was all just meant to unroll like this. Okay, so we have a few more minutes left, Steve. What is one thing? You've had a very interesting life. You've done a lot of things. What's one mindset or philosophy that you'd like to share with everybody before we close?
So we've been talking a lot about cancer, and cancer still is, devastating. And 600,000 people this year are going to die of cancer. 2 million people are going to get diagnosed with cancer this year. It's still a massive unsolved problem. But this is a field and a problem where now with a new set of tools with AI is advancing really, really rapidly. And so, I would encourage everyone to really dig into it and learn as much as they can about it, and to use AI. And we're building tools that you can use. You'll be able soon to use for this as well. But there are new possibilities opening up every day related to cancer. And I think you mentioned it earlier on. It's not about like, do I have some silver bullet that's going to cure this? It's about, what can I do today that helps me live another 5 years? Because in this next 5 years, or live another 2 years or 3 years, because there's so much progress happening every day now. And it's fueled by, like, AI is helping accelerate this just immensely. So, hang in there and become an expert in your disease, because no one else can become an expert. Like your doctor has hundreds of other patients and a lot of other things going on, and they want to get home to their family, for dinner and go play golf or whatever. But you need to become an expert in your disease, and it's possible now for you to become an expert in your disease. AI is the key kind of tool that allows you to become an expert in your disease. So dig into the details. When in doubt, talk to AI about it, learn about it, and see if there might be some better options out there for you that you can talk to your doctor about, and hang in there, because like this next 5 years, we're probably going to have more progress in cancer than in the previous 100 years.
For sure.
So this is a time to dig in.
Right. And I would go further. I even put my test results into AI. Like, I got a DEXA scan. I don't know. And they just said normal. I said, normal? I don't want normal. I called them. Oh, it's normal. I said, normal. That's it. Normal. I said, what are the numbers? It's normal. I said, no, surely you got a report. I want that report. Oh, okay. So they sent it to me. Yes, it was all this gobbledygook. I got that, and I fed it into AI, and it told me exactly what it meant. Exactly. It wasn't just normal or not normal. It was the age and the this. And I was like, is that normal for, I'm 60. Is that normal for a 60-year-old? And it said, actually normal for a 25 or 30-year-old. I thought, great, that's even better. So sometimes it's actually good news, but I don't think it's just waiting. I think the empowerment is not just waiting till there's a big problem. I think it's all tests I get now. I feed them into AI, and it does make a few mistakes, because I thought, not quite right. But at least you know what that means. It's not just, oh, I got a blood test and these are the results. Because I do do you know Function Health that you get?
Yes.
A ton. Oh, well, you know what? I had to have somebody else read those results, because I don't know what that means. So I had my other metabolic doctor, and she told me exactly what that meant. She goes, no, Jean, that does not mean this. That's because you don't know how to read. I thought, I didn't know that. So it's really important to also double check on what those findings actually mean, because doctors know what that means, and we don't sometimes. We just don't. Even though it spits out recommendations, it's telling you what to eat and not eat. It's not saying what exactly does that mean.
We have people that have been using CureWise that had essentially given up on their cancer, because they thought there's pretty much nothing. My doctor's saying there's nothing else we can do. And they've gone in, and we've kind of gone through this process of going in and the cytogenetics and asking new questions, finding clinical trials and finding new possibilities. And you know what? It may be that there's nothing that they can do, but knowing that you've kind of dug into it and exhausted all options and tried is extremely empowering, because the worst thing is like, wow, I know somebody who's kind of went through this process, and he said, it's kind of like at he's a European guy. It's kind of like at the end of World War II. You don't want to be like the one getting killed in this last battle when you know the war is already over.
Exactly.
And I'm like, or like, the soldier on the island in the South Pacific who doesn't even know the war is over. Like, you want to know that you're doing all you can do. And people in that category have found, like, hey, you know what? There is a clinical trial that I qualify for that I'm going to go try, and I'm going to go advocate for now. And there's another person that I know who's actually working with CureWise now, who had a great response and was in remission, and then her cancer came back, and it was like, well, if I exhausted all the options, she worked with CureWise together with her oncologist and found a pathway and got in a new clinical trial, and it's working.
That's
so
great.
it's like the fact that like you want to know that you've tried everything it's super empowering. Just
your utmost. Yeah. So
yeah.
Steve, this has been fascinating, and I really appreciate you coming in and telling us all about this. And I'd love to have you on another time to talk about AI in general, if you're up for that. But thank you so much. I hope that everybody got a lot out of this, as I did. If you loved it, just subscribe. And if you want to get on CureWise, is it curewise.ai?
CureWise.com.
Okay, you're using .com. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
And right now it's a waiting list. Get on the waiting list because you're going to get some special treatments and perks for getting and be the first. We're letting people in kind of phases, but go get on the waiting list. We're launching it more generally by the end of the year.
Great. Awesome. Thank you so much. And we will see you on the next show. Take care. You're listening to the Business Wealth Impact Podcast, your source for empowering information and cutting-edge ideas from the world's top minds. I'm your host, Jeanne Amlour, founder of seven-figure coaching company, Jeanne Amlour International. Join me on a journey to unleash your potential and create your highest success. Welcome to Business Wealth Impact.